Hey everybody, welcome to Monday Funday, episode 13. I'm Ricky, and where the hell did Andrew go?
Ah! I just flying in.
It's a nice eagle you got there. What'd you win it for?
Thanks, buddy. I wanted helping people build a mushroom empire.
Nice.
Yeah. I have to say I'm overly joyed by the delicious treats that nature's treasures, as we like to call them, and so this is for all of our fans and all of our family. And yeah, I was just hanging out in the back of an eagle. I mean, why not? Isn't that the best place to be?
Yeah, you're like Gandalf, man. Didn't he fly on an eagle once?
Yeah, except he had a lot grayer hair. He also had a lot more manly scruff. So without getting too far off topic, which is quite normal if you were to hang out with me and Ricky. Um, we just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge our loyal and excited audience. We love what we do, but Monday Funday is a part of that. And alluding to the title, The Power of No, well, in the last couple of weeks, we've been very busy, very busy. We are in Texas together. We were in Vegas together training. I did a workshop seminar on high performance health. How can you become more annoying? And Ricky did a phenomenal presentation last Saturday on digestion. Mind blowing. What a response. The community loved it. And so the reason we're calling this the power of no, right? If you haven't read the book by Eckhart Tolle, is it pronounced?
I think it's totally, yeah.
Holy, the power of now. Well, sometimes, and I want to get into Ricky's opinion on this, but sometimes we find that when we aren't able to say no to someone else's agenda, to someone else's email, to someone else's request, what that's actually telling the universe is that you're last. And so guess what it's going to do? The universe is going to go out. God's going to look around and say, hey, who can I support there? Who can I help there? And instead, it's going to put you last, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So we don't want to set that intention. Now, intentionally speaking, Ricky and I didn't expect that we were blocked both Mondays, just based on traveling, coming back, and red eye flights, and clients, and it was a wild zoo the last couple of weeks. So Ricky, I know that this topic really speaks volumes to you about the type of clients that you see, but also sometimes they have these blocks and addressing their own needs, their self-care, saying no to other people's agendas.
Yeah, we live in a time right now where people get FOMO, right? They never want to say no to anything. They just have this constant fear of missing out. And they don't say no to like people if they want to go out on a weekend. They don't prioritize. So me and Andrew had this deep discussion, and we were like, hey, you know what? We can kind of, and excuse my language, half-ass a podcast in an airport or something like that. But it really wouldn't be worth it. It wouldn't be serving anyone. So me and Andrew went on some deep trainings. We went to Houston. We went to Vegas. We have some personal trips coming up. We've been doing workshops. So it's kind of been 7 days a week, right? For the last couple of weeks, at least, or the last few weeks, I should say. But it's something that we've had to say no to a lot of different things. And back to my Gandalf analogy, like if he had said no to like all those requests to go on journeys with hobbits, he probably would still have black hair like Andrew, right? It's because he took on too much stress, right? And he just didn't have the time. There's only so much time, and who you spend that time with is the most important. How many people you surround yourself with that are on the same wavelength as you, that think like you, and people that are like a step ahead of you too, right? You always want to be with those people because they're paving the way, that they're showing you the blueprint. And as long as you're willing to put in the work, the persistence, you can do it. But you got to say no to things. Like, so I meet so many patients who are trying to get better, but they're unwilling to say no to their friends who might want to go to a bar on the weekend, or that restaurant, or that big trip to like just party or something like that. And saying no is where everything starts, right? So the power of now is one thing, but the power of no is something I've learned the hard way. I'm known to be a yes man. I can take on a lot of things. It comes from probably some inherent need to make sure everybody around me is happy. But when you become a people pleaser, guess who gets pleased? The people around you. Guess who doesn't? You, right? So it's the power of now, right?
Drop, mic
Mic
drop.
drop.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I was reminded, I was on a coaching call last week with one of my high performance clients, and you know, she's found a relationship that makes her happy. And but what we took notice of is inside this relationship, she's noticing she's staying up later. She's drinking more alcohol than normal. And she's like, normally I would have like a red wine, you know, a couple times a month. Nothing wrong with that. Feel free, right? Assuming it's, you know, the right type, hopefully. You know, there's some health benefits if it works for you, if it puts you in a parasympathetic, right? That rest and relax system. And you don't feel super out of it, doesn't affect your sleep. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. The reason I'm saying this is she discovers she's having a hard time saying no. And as a result, they both lost. They actually both were tired. They both noticed that they're going to bed later. They're both noticing that because there's this excitement. I'm like, okay, well, what would it look like if you guys did an early dinner? What if you were to wait and get eager and anticipate each other for the end of the week? What would that feel like? So sometimes, you know, we're really looking at instant gratification. And it's not just other people's agendas that we're not saying no to. It's also the email, right? It's that request of us. It's that post that gets your attention, but hasn't really added much value to you, but you're consumed with seeing the new car that person got. Well, that's great, but let's make sure that we're focusing on, if a car is your thing, bringing that intention in your life. Because how you do one thing, how you do everything in your entire world. And so if you can master this art of, I like to call it distraction, right? No is a very effective tool. When you say no to email in the first hour of your day, guess what the science is saying? By the end of that week, 30% upgrade in your productivity. 3 different studies concluded that. So by saying no to emails and to social media, other people's agendas, but also to your instant gratification response, right? When you go on social media and you like to like and share and post, and you want to scroll through and see all the cool photos and all the hot pics, well, that's also you, not necessarily not saying no to someone else, but saying, hey, is this bringing me more intentional quality? Is this bringing me the feeling I'm looking for? And so that's why most people have a frazzled day or a confusing week, because that's how they start every day. So when we say no, maybe in fact we can flip it over and say, what don't I know? And say, who do I need to be in this scenario to make the most of this? How can I tap out these distractions? And what's going to be important about that? Because maybe in front of those distractions, all you can see are just that. You just see these things that distract you, like, wow, what's getting in the way? But if you look beyond that and say, you know, who do I really want to be this week or today, right? Really important thing. High performers, they don't have 5-year goals. They set intentional hours. And once you set intentional hours, then you can set an intentional day. And if you get slipped up that day, that's okay. Get back to it. The reason this is so important is the power of no supersedes everything. It governs what allows your energy to be invested in, both in effort and in thought and in communication, right? And it allows you to be ready for that time when you can plug in, you can invest. Because if I was saying yes to everything that was on my list, I wouldn't have been able to go to Texas. Thanks to Sachin and Deepa for sending our team there to the Functional Medicine Summit. Peter Osborne, shout out. What a Clint Eastwood. Just so stoic and awesome. Just beautiful. And changing the landscape one practitioner at a time. But here's the thing. would I have been able to go to Vegas and get acknowledged because of my willingness to say no? Would that have been, would that happen? No, it wouldn't have. I was willing to say no and focus, right? And so really this idea of no comes from a level of intention and focus and clarity, and focusing on what's most important, not what other people tell you is most important.
Powerful, man, powerful. And it's true, right? If you didn't say no to those things, you would have been bogged down by your schedule. You wouldn't have been able to make time. And I know even my workshop, I had a workshop this weekend. I wasn't expecting to see Andrew there, but I'm sure he said no to a bunch of stuff to show up and support the mission, right? So you need to be very intentional with how you use your time, how you spend your time, and what you take on. Because when you take something on, it could be a long endeavor, right? It could be something that takes up a lot of time, and that time might not be very fruitful for you. So we were able to go to Houston to see the Clint Eastwood of functional medicine educate us, and shout out Dr. Osborne as well. He's the man. So that was a great event. We really did some deep training in Las Vegas. It was actually one of the most influential and informative events I've ever attended in my life. And it's because we said no to other things, right? You have to be very careful with what you pick and what you actually invest your time with. So make sure that you're not just saying yes to things because you think it'll bring you some sort of pleasure, or it will help you because, like, for whatever reason, you are trying to learn something new, you're kind of bored. Like, we always take on stuff for all the wrong reasons, right? One thing that I learned, as Andrew had said, was the emails. I used to check my emails almost immediately upon waking up, and guess what would happen? It'd be like 10 a.m. and I'd already be burnt out, and I'd be like, okay, now what? Coffee, and probably not a good coffee like I'm drinking now, right? And it would just destroy my productivity. And by the time it was like 3-4 o'clock, I was pretty much done. I was a zombie till the rest of the day. So after high performance training, making sure I have this power hour in the morning where I'm really intentionally designing my day. It's not a mistake that we're doing this podcast at this time. Me and Andrew had absolutely crazy days today in terms of hours, but we decided we're going live later in the day today, and let's set it in the schedule. Let's do it. So it was because we were able to intentionally use every single hour. So it's not necessarily saying no to everything. So you don't want to say no to things you enjoy doing, things that are pleasurable. It's all the wrong things, right? So no, absolutely. Like, it's been an amazing journey in the sense that, like, the more I say no to stuff that I feel won't bring me value, the more value arrives in my life, right? So this is why people will tell you to do spring cleaning, or periodically clean out stuff that isn't important to you. Don't just hang on to like clothes you never wear again. Like, when you create space in your life, great things will come in and occupy that new space. But if that space is full, there's no room for it, right? You're not ready to receive that. And that's one of the core messages I picked up like over the last few weeks as well, is that you got to be in a position to receive, and patience. And that's what my most of my hours are taken up with patients. So one of the things that I see is that they just take on too much, right? A dietary change is just like Mount Everest to them because they're thinking about all the other things they have to do. And really, it's about focusing on the core 5 or 6 things that are really going to move the needle, and really saying no to all the other factors that might be taking you away from pushing that needle in the right direction, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, awesome, Ricky. So let's give them some exercises, right? Let's give them some training, some tools, because we're only as good as the things that we do consistently and repeatedly as a habit. Success is not by a choice necessarily, but it's a set of habits. It's a set of repetitive behaviors. So the first thing I would do if I was operating in a sort of I'm curious, what's this no? How can I bring it in? Let's look for opportunities. What about the radio station? You're driving home and you start hearing ads. I would immediately say, is this adding value to me? And I would turn it off, or I'd turn to some classical music, or better yet, an audiobook. Okay. So we make consistent choices throughout the day. Hey, lunch, you didn't prepare it. Now everyone's going to the food truck and you can have a poutine and chicken fingers at the street vendor. Great. Awesome. Just make sure you know that that's the intention you're setting into the universe. So it's going to send you back low energy opportunities because you're making low energy choices. Now, if there's a place, I mean, I know a couple of weeks ago, I bought some delicious chicken tenders. They were gluten-free. I made my own dairy-free sauce. It was super next level. You make your own sweet potato fries. There you go. I said no, and instead I made a choice, and I decided what I can replace that with. So number one, radio station. Another one, you come home, and maybe you normally sit in front of the TV. I mean, Americans, Canadians, there's usually at least 3 hours on average or more of TV per night. What if we were to say no to one? After 1 hour, we say no, that's it. That's it. That's it. From 8 to 9, that's it. And then I'm going to read for 30 minutes, and I'm going to turn the lights down, and I'm going to get in the mood for sexy time and sleep. Okay? That's it. I'm just saying, Ricky. Don't judge me like that. And so we have choices consistently that we're being bombarded with, and you have an opportunity to say yes or to say no. And the next thing I'd say is like, hey, wait a second, just because grandma's putting this on my plate doesn't mean I have to eat doubles. Say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do the gravy. Yeah, thanks. No, I don't want any stuffing, right? You have a choice. So this goes everywhere in our lives. It's the power of no, because within that, I've learned that that's where knowledge, that's where the power of knowing comes from. Because if you think you can't resist that bag of cookies in the evening, what would it be like if you instead shoved your face in a bag of frozen mangoes like I do? What would that give you? How would that treat your sleep? How would you feel the next day? That's the power of no. It's knowing that, hey, I'm giving myself real brain food here, and I'm giving myself a reboot, a software program, just like we do when we hit up the Ganoderma drinks, right? We're getting a reboot, we're getting a recharge. What's that going to do? So really what I want to leave you on is to make a choice, even if it's a small one, right? You once had training wheels, right? We're not talking Tour de France type of events here. Just talking about small marked changes. And I want Ricky to talk on this because he sees these gradual shifts from a clinical perspective. I see them from a high performance lens. And so, Ricky, give him your best 3 tips in terms of what they can do starting tonight. What are the things that could slip them up from making less of those no decisions that is ultimately going to be worthy of making, to say no?
Yeah, it's so powerful. And with me, like, again, the context is going to come from the view of a practitioner seeing patients, right? And so many times I encounter patients who will complain that because of their environment, because of the way the rest of the family eats, they're unable to say no to that treat. They're unable to say no to that gluten-filled good or that high sugar processed food, right? And what I tell them to do is you got to get clear on what your intentions are. If your intentions are to get better, that no should be the easiest no of your life. The reason that you're struggling to say no to it is because it's not a priority. It's not something that has a lot of value in it. So it's much easier for someone to say they want to feel better than actually putting in the work to feel better, right? So one of the things that you have to be, and we did an earlier podcast a while back, like, I can't believe we can actually say that we have archives, go back to like an old episode, right? But it's on goal setting, right? So you want to make sure that your goals are actually things you want to achieve, things that you have a necessity to achieve, things that are prioritized. If they're not a priority, you're going to say yes to all the wrong things. So one of the things you can do is get really clear on what you want to accomplish. So me and Andrew have actually set a goal, and we're going to announce it here that we're actually going to be going to Africa later this year. We're going to be going to Mauritius, right, for a vacation. And guess what? We're going to be all paid for as well, right? So it's part of an incentive trip that we're a part of as well. So we put that intention out there. Now, what does that involve us doing? What does that involve us saying no to? Guess what we had to say no to? We had to say no to a couple of weekends already, right? We had to say no to several get-togethers with friends. I know I just had friends contact me earlier this week about going out and seeing the Leaf game. As you guys know, I'm a pretty big hockey fan. So I had to say no to that because guess what? It's not in line with what I'm trying to accomplish today. So get very, very clear about what you want to accomplish. That's going to be super important. The second tip, and these tips, like these are set in stone principles, right? So get really clear about what you want to achieve. The second step is surround yourself with people who build up your goal. If you're constantly around people who are telling you what to do, things you think you can't say no to, and you're constantly bombarded and just overwhelmed and you can't get anything done, you're with the wrong group of people. Find your tribe, right? So find the people that are going to build you up. Andrew, when we were in Vegas, when we were in Houston, we were actually just talking before doing this podcast. I'm like, man, like I'm thinking back, when was my last day off? It's been like a month, I feel, since I've had a day off. And like, at the same time, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like I've been having the time of my life while I've been working on these things, right? So it's because of the core group of people I'm around and the tribe that I'm around. So you have to make sure that you're very clear, you have good people in your life. And then the third one is that you're actually willing to put in the work. So nothing moves with work. There is no get healthy overnight strategy. There is no get rich quick scheme, right? Everything involves work. And when you put in work, you realize that you have to put in time. What do you have to do with time? You got to say no to some things to gain that time to put it toward something you want. And one of the key words is you never want to say, and I shout out Satch, and we learned this from him, you never want to say make time or kind of like, what was the other ones, Andrew? It was make time,
Take time.
Yeah, you never want to treat time like that. Like it should be invest time, right? Devote time. You got to be very intentional with your language and what you want to do, but make sure you're willing to put in the work, right? Because that is inherently what this whole podcast is about, is finding out what you're passionate about, getting really, really clear on that, putting in the work and surrounding yourself with people that are going to take you there. So when patient signs up with me for a program for functional medicine, they get my whole team, right? So they got a whole team surrounding them. They're very clear. And when we get very clear in appointment number one about what we want to do, and then we teach them how to put in the work to get there, right? Nothing is accomplished. I don't give people magic pills. I don't give people potions. I don't wave a magic wand. I wish I could do that. I can't, but it has to be from the work perspective, right? So, and Andrew has seen it because I've been one of his clients and we did high performance together, right? And what was wrong with me, Andrew? I wasn't very clear, right? I wasn't putting in the work because I was so overwhelmed with all the other things I had to do that I didn't say no to. And then the people I was hanging around with were not very conducive. And I can't say there's too much of that actually, but there's probably one or two people where I probably needed to separate myself from them a little bit more so to accomplish the things I wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great, Ricky. So, the goal today is look in your life where you can find the power of no. Now, if someone's trying to hold the door for you and you say no, it's a no, like that's clearly not the place we're looking for. So choose wisely, because every time we say yes, just because we think we need to say yes, we set an intention. And if it's other people's agendas, other people's needs, and it's been a cycle where you're like, okay, they're always asking for something, or they're always, I always wanting to go out late, and then the next day I'm always tired. Like, maybe you got to suggest something. So instead of saying no, maybe you challenge them a little bit and say, hey, why don't we try this instead? Because if there's something in your life that you want to change the things in your life. And the fastest way to do that is in 5 seconds. The 5 second rule. And I believe it's Mel Robbins or something is the author. And you have 5 seconds to make a choice. Do you want to go and eat this, or do you want to go eat this? 5 seconds. Do you want to go watch this? Do you want to watch this? Do you want to read this? Or do you want to just flip through social media like that? Right? The people you hang around with, that's a big one. And I know that relationships are a tough one. We had a really great show on that. But keep it simple. The power of no is knowing that on the other side of a decision is probably a better version of you, just one step at a time. So hang tight. We will keep the shows running. We got some exciting topics coming. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in, Ricky.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you guys for asking where the episodes went. It tells us that you're listening, all 14 of you. It's humble beginnings, right? So me and Andrew are going to continue to come at you guys week after week. I am in Hawaii for the next week, so if you guys don't see much of me, it's because I'm finally getting some vitamin D. That's something that's been missing for me, especially with the winter weather. But love you guys, and stay tuned.